Hey everyone, welcome to part 4 of What If Future Trunks Stayed in the Past, the Goku Black Arc, or should I say, the Trunks Black Arc. In the previous episode, the Universe 6 tournament came to an end, as Future Trunks unleashed a rageful state, though it wasn't quite enough to beat Hit. Future Trunks realized there was a lot more he needed to do, heading to the future and using the Namekian Dragon Balls to return Earth to the way it was prior to the android attack, reviving Future Gohan. But once Future Trunks returned to the past, Future Gohan showed up, warning that the future was in danger and that Bulma had been killed by a strange being, Trunks Black. The adventure continues now, but don't forget to subscribe and share with your friends who like Dragon Ball. Anyways, let's begin. Future Trunks is met with nothing but death and an eerie silence. He looks around through Capsule Corp, but it just remains in ruins. His eyes fill with tears as he wanders through the desolate landscape to what he used to call home. Future Gohan walks closely behind. It felt like there was no key signatures at all, meaning that all the major cities where people were clustered were gone. Trunks knew that there had to be some survivors somewhere, or rather, that's what he hoped. He sat in front of the Capsule Corp ruins and began to tear up. As his mother was nowhere to be found, he started to search around the lab to see if there was anything from her left behind. A hint perhaps, but there was nothing. Just her notebook remained. Trunks held onto it tightly. "It's me, Mother. I'm home. I'm sorry I wasn't here for you." Future Gohan explained that Bulma had been making notes in there ever since the attacks began, and it would be her last hope if Trunks never returned after all. Future Trunks turned slowly to Gohan, asking, "What happened while I was gone? Were they more androids? Someone or something from off the planet?" Gohan shook his head before explaining how the culprit was none other than Trunks himself, or rather, someone who had taken the form of Trunks. Either that or an evil version of himself from a different timeline. There was too little information on this person. It's not as if they could just ask him. All they could do was flee and hide. "That explains why you looked so scared of me then." Trunks knew that he needed to put a stop to this threat himself. After all, it was some version of him that caused all of this. Unfortunately for him, and the rest of the humans, they had no idea where this being resided, and Trunks couldn't sense any large power levels at all. So it was likely he was either off planet or simply suppressing his ki. Trunks didn't exactly know where to go from here, but he believed that it was best for him to return to the present and get allies. Previously, Future Gohan arrived at the present. Trunks exploded in anger once he heard that his mother had been killed, but Gohan and Vegeta managed to calm him down. Immediately, after giving Gohan a senzu bean, Trunks insisted on going to the future. Gohan agreed to go with him, but trouble was brewing in the present. At that very same time, as Goku and Vegeta watched the two future warriors leave, they were approached by another being that looked just like Trunks. He was wearing black, quickly disappeared after a short battle against Goku. It was obvious to them that whoever this was must be the culprit of future Bulma's death. At the power he was at now though, it seems like Trunks could be able to take him on. Perhaps they didn't have too much to worry about. Trunks and Gohan arrive back at the present and immediately head off to present Gohan's home to tell him what just occurred. Future Trunks wanted to get Gohan. He trusted him. He knew the two of them could take care of this. When they arrive, Gohan calms him down to the best of his abilities before suggesting that they tell the others. After all, they may be able to help. Future Gohan and present Gohan awkwardly shake hands before present Gohan hears the sound of Pan's cries and goes to get her. Future Gohan couldn't believe what he was seeing. In another life, he could have had a wife and a kid, lived peacefully, and researched just like he always wanted to do. He did feel a little jealous of Gohan. He had gotten to spend so much time with Trunks he never got to. But they had more important things to take care of now. This wasn't the ideal way Future Gohan wanted to arrive at the present. He wanted to arrive when he was ready, not when he was forced out by some being. As Future Gohan turned around to walk through the door, present Gohan sat Pan down. But Future Gohan heard Pan's little voice shouting for her dad. He clenched his fist, choking up. He turned around to see that she was actually lifting her arms for him. Future Gohan was taken aback, unsure of what to do. But present Gohan placed a hand on his shoulder and nodded at him. Future Gohan slowly approached the girl, picking her up and holding her tight. He was nervous. He hadn't picked up a baby ever since, well, Trunks. He looked up at him, smiling. It seems that was so long ago now. In fact, Future Trunks looked older than himself. how much had things changed. But when future Gohan looked down again, the little girl was already asleep on him. He slowly and gently rubbed her cheek, smiling, before Videl walked in to get her. Gohan thought she would have a wilder reaction, but she had been used to having two Trunkses around already. Even so, Videl said he was welcomed at their home anytime. She walked past her husband and whispered at him that maybe he should get some scars himself. He looked handsome. Present Gohan blushed as Videl headed to put Pan to bed. Now that was over, the conversation took a more serious turn. Present Gohan suggested going to Goku first and having future Gohan train with him, as they too train in preparation. Future Gohan approaches Goku. This future Gohan has already gotten to spend a good bit of time with Goku in heaven, but seeing his father older in the living realm was very strange. In fact, Goku didn't recognize him at first until he sensed his ki. Goku thought Gohan had just gotten hurt while play fighting with Pan and had gotten a few scars. But future Gohan immediately jumped to hug his father. Goku cocked an eyebrow before present Gohan and future Trunks landed by his side, explaining the situation. Goku understood that this was the Gohan who was forced to fight his entire life, but with very little guidance. He knew they were in a hurry, but Goku asked future Gohan if he wanted to train for a bit. Enthusiastically, the future Saiyan agreed. They headed into the time chamber, while present Gohan and future Trunks trained outside. Trunks was trying to hone his power of rage, which he felt during the Universe 6 tournament, while Gohan was trying to find a way to also obtain a new power. Inside the chamber, Goku gave future Gohan some guidance, and scolded him for not visiting his mother much. Gohan was glad to have this time with his father, slowly growing in power through the months of training. Goku knew how to deal with a Gohan who didn't have Super Saiyan 2 yet, so this really helped him get there and evolve even further. Could this be enough? Goku said that if the guy they fought was that Trunks black guy, then surely this power should be enough to defeat him between the three of them. They exited the chamber, with Goku and Vegeta offering to come along, but Trunks told them that they need to do this alone for now. Just Trunks and the two Gohans. If they need their help, they'll come get him. Plus, it's gonna be cramped in the time machine, they said to the future. Trunks popped the time machine into a capsule and, with the jar in hand, walked over to Capsule Corp. President Gohan couldn't believe all the devastation he was seeing. It was horrific, with both him and Gohan raising their power levels to try and lure their enemy. Future Gohan gulped at the immense power he could feel. Surely they could defeat Black like this, right? He then joined them both in powering up. After a minute of that, they detected a weirdly sinister ki. It felt like nothing they have ever experienced before. Dark, ominous clouds started to form as their enemy arrived. Stepping out of the violent winds came a figure who looked identical to Trunks apart from his outfit, which was black. "Who are you?" Trunks immediately shouted towards the doppelganger. He simply responded with a sadistic grin. He recognized future Gohan as the kid who stood up against them. He liked playing with him, which is why he never killed him. Black then tilted his head. So, he had a twin and a friend too, huh? The two Trunkses stared each other down before rushing towards one another. Their blades clashed, and a shockwave shook the entire area. Trunks wasn't messing around, however. After his first strike, burst out his aura, ascending into his ultimate form. Afterwards, he immediately blasted his copycat, sending him to the floor. Gohan watched from the sidelines, as it looked like Trunks was more than enough to handle this. The two of them continued to fight, but the evil Trunks wasn't getting any hits in at all. Trunks was dominating the battle. Suddenly, another ominous ki started to approach. Trunks Black smirked and distanced himself from Trunks. "You're both as good as dead now." From the same black clouds emerged a Kai? Neither Trunks nor Gohan recognized them at all, but it clearly seemed like a Kai. This just got a whole lot more confusing for the three hybrids. The unnamed Kai and Trunks' doppelganger flew up and stared down at both Gohans and Trunks. Present Gohan and Trunks were now both in their ultimate states at this point. "Who are you both? What do you want?" Trunks shouted at the two of them. The Kai stepped forward and explained how they were simply cleansing the world. No, the universe of this mortal filth that runs rampant within it. Future Gohan asked who the Trunks was then, to which both enemies laughed. Trunks Black stepped forward. "My name is Zamasu, the newly appointed Supreme Kai of Universe 10. We watched your battle in Universe 6 and were surprised that such lowly mortals could possess such power. It was a split second where your ki showed up at an alarming level. It disgusted me that such a vile mortal could hold such power. I was already growing tired of your mortals, so I took it upon myself to set out to fix things. Using the Super Dragon Balls, I stole your body, as its potential is wasted on you. I did think about taking that other guy, Son Goku, was it? His power was impressive, but your sins, Trunks, were all I needed to know. Were far greater than anyone else. That little time machine of yours. I heard all about it during the tournament. How they called you the future warrior. How you explained that you were going back to the future just to say hi to your mother. Time isn't something you should mess with. Only us Kais should ever be able to move through it. I decided that I needed some assistance for this plan to work, and who better to recruit than myself. So, using a time ring, I teamed up with him, another Zamasu, and here we are, finally carrying out my Zero Mortals plan. A time ring that was created as a result of your interference with time, Trunks. You truly are the worst mortal ever to grace this universe. All this chaos you caused, you brought this upon yourself. I am your creation, and I will be your undoing. Trunks and the two Gohans were speechless. This was completely absurd. Trunks was devastated that it was his own destructive power and interfering with time that caused this unstable Kai to take radical steps and was essentially the catalyst that caused this horrific situation to happen. So many people had suffered because of him. Trunks' aura immediately spiked and there was nothing but rage in his mind. With no warning, he began attacking the Kai, leaving both Gohans to take down the alternative versions of Trunks. They had to be wary of this blade. The double Gohan threat began their attack. It was surprisingly easy for them to synchronize their attacks and abilities. Present Gohan was still in his ultimate form, while future Gohan powered up into Super Saiyan. Trunks Black was particularly curious about future Gohan's transformations. He could feel it was Saiyan of origin, unlike the other forms the other two warriors were sporting. The two Gohans were relentless in their attacks, easily keeping their enemy on the defensive. However, the worrying thing was that this body thief seemed to be enjoying every last punch, kick, and blast they landed on him. Trunks was going full force, letting out all of his frustration. His combo was devastating, and the Kai couldn't defend himself at all. Trunks finished his combo off by blasting Zamasu with an intense final flash. Zamasu attempted to defend it, but it was useless, and the aftermath wasn't pretty. You're done, Zamasu. Look at you. You're finished. Trunks slowly walked towards the Kai, unsheathing his sword as he did. The Kai was in a sorry state and coughed up blood as he fell on the ground. His gasps suddenly stopped, and he instead started laughing. His wounds started to heal right before them. How could this be? You see, something I missed about my story was how I used the power of the Super Dragon Balls to make myself immortal. The fallen Kai stated as a sadistic grin formed on his face. Both Trunks and the two Gohans gulped. This was going to be much more difficult than they anticipated. And not only this, but whilst the two Gohans were battling against Trunks Black, they had noticed that he was getting better and learning as he fought. This was going to be problematic indeed. The next round ensued, but this time the pair of Gohans took care of Zamasu, while Trunks fought against the evil adversary, Trunks Black. The two of them clashed blades, but Trunks noticed immediately that his doppelganger was far stronger than before, and was not only adapting to his style, but also copying some of his moves. He had to end this fast, so he could ensure his growth stops. Trunks burst out his aura, launching a deadly assault on Black. The evil Trunks tanked the hits, and afterwards grinned evilly at Trunks. I'm curious about that transformation you have. It doesn't feel purely like a Saiyan one. I fear that it's even reminiscent to something only the higher gods can achieve and unlock. If so, then you deserve even worse than death. I think it would be ironic for me to don a Saiyan transformation like your other future Saiyan friend has. A flash of lightning crashed down between the two Trunkses, and after the electricity dissipated, Trunks stared down at a pink, Super Saiyan-esque hair. Before Trunks could even speak, Zamasu began relishing in his new discovered form. Look at this color, isn't that beautiful? And threw his sword down at the ground, then created a bright pink blade. Trunks refused to back down, and instead of waiting, rushed towards his evil double, their blades clashing over and over again, neither of them backing down, despite the difference in strength. Round 2, mortal. Present Gohan was blasted down by Zamasu and into Capsule Corp, further adding to the future destruction. How could they defeat an immortal being? The closest thing to an immortal man they had ever fought before was Boo. Would destroying Zamasu to the very last atom work? It was their best shot. They needed to get rid of Zamasu first. Present Gohan yelled at the other two to put everything they've got into this one blast. Future Trunks was occupied with Goku Black, but he knew that Zamasu could be just as troublesome if not more so than Black. firing a burning attack to Black to send him flying off for just a second. As he turned around, he watched as Zamasu was driven up against the wall by present Gohan, who began to charge a Kamehameha. Alongside future Gohan, Trunks began charging his Gallic gun. Zamasu had nowhere to run. He was enveloped by the three beams. He tried to push it back. Even as an immortal being, this hurt. Black stood up from the rubble, watching his counterpart be consumed. It was clear these mortals were getting troublesome. They had to do something drastic. Black yelled at Zamasu, telling him to take off his earring. Zamasu questioned it, but Black simply yelled out, "Now!" The blast was further pushed into him as he could barely move his hand up to his ear and snatch his earring off. To the heroes, it looked like the blast was finally going to destroy Zamasu, but this wasn't the case, as Zamasu was instead propelled towards Goku Black, meeting in the middle and fusing in a bright light, unleashing the power of divinity. They knew firsthand the power boost the fusion gave you. They knew they stood no chance. Trunks Black and Zamasu's fusion was complete. The god ascended into the sky and began a speech, talking about how he came to cleanse the universe from all mortal life once more, and how his new form was unmatched. A white halo of light appearing behind him, and he immediately assaulted the three of them with blades of judgment. All three were hurt considerably by the blast. Present Gohan weakly stood up in front of Trunks, shielding him from the attacks. Zamasu smirked, then blasted at Gohan with an intense purple lightning bolt. Trunks watched in slow motion as Gohan fell on the ground, his face scarred the same way as his future counterpart. Zamasu's laughter became a faint murmur in Trunks' mind as anger and rage took over him entirely. He slowly stood up, picking up his sword dropped by Trunks Black as he fused, as well as unsheathing his own. The dust cleared, and Zamasu laid his eyes on Trunks, who was now enveloped in a yellow and blue aura. He holds a sword in each hand and growls at fused Zamasu. The two clash as shockwaves assault the planet from their combined sheer power. Despite the newly fused Zamasu's immeasurable power, Trunks' rage and willpower seemed to give him the advantage. He was completely unstoppable, and Zamasu couldn't seem to get him down. Future Gohan watched his student have indomitable spirit. He couldn't have been prouder. Thus, future Gohan began powering up into Super Saiyan 3, rushing towards Zamasu as well, attacking him from a different angle. But being dead and in another world for so long had severely impaired his fighting, especially having this new arm. He just wasn't used to it. He knew he was holding the other two back, and Zamasu was targeting him. He couldn't help but feel like a burden to the others, but that wasn't going to stop him. He pushed onward, taking even more hits and sustaining much more damage than the other two, but he didn't care. Trunks, however, couldn't stand to see his master like this. He yelled over to him to back down and leave it to him, but he refused, telling both that this was his timeline to protect. In desperation, future Trunks fired a powerful Gallic gun at Zamasu, keeping him away for a few seconds as he grabbed onto both Gohans. Flying far away, they asked what the hell he was doing, but Trunks didn't answer, simply throwing a capsule from his pocket, revealing the time machine. Both Gohans refused to enter, but Trunks wasn't about to argue with them, grabbing them and throwing them into the time machine. "This is my timeline too, and I'll hold things down in the meantime. Please, I'm trusting you both." He then pressed one final button on the machine as it rose up to the sky before disappearing from this timeline. Zamasu erupted in anger, but soon enough began to laugh. "Oh, are you proud of yourself? I don't think you realize what you've done, because now you're trapped here with me, and there is no escape other than through death." Trunks didn't fear death, as he had already faced it his entire life. He held his sword before him in an offensive stance before beaconing the god to attack. Meanwhile, in the past timeline, the two Gohans arrived. Both of them were still processing what happened. Future Gohan immediately went to hit some random sequence of buttons in hopes that it'll take him back to future Trunks, but present Gohan stopped him. "Trunks will protect the future for us when we're gone. I assure you, we can trust them. Now it's our turn." The two agreed and set off to find Goku and Vegeta, who were still currently training at Capsule Corp with Beerus and Whis. They arrived and informed them of what had occurred and the identity of the evil Trunks. Beerus, who was currently resting in the sunbed, twitched his ear upon hearing Zamasu's name. Whis looked over at the god of destruction. "Looks like your hunch was right after all."
"Of course it was. When have my hunches ever been wrong in the past? Now, without confirmation, we better go take care of things."
They go to Universe 8, and just like in the original story, go off to handle Zamasu. Goku and Vegeta are really surprised at how far this had escalated, and insisted that they headed there straight away, as it was likely Trunks wouldn't be able to hold things much longer. They take out the capsule for the time machine and get ready to depart. Goku stopped them before leaving, saying that they still don't have a way to defeat an immortal being. So he said that while he goes to get some senzu beans, they should go see Piccolo. He will have something for them. Future Gohan and present Gohan looked at each other. Future Gohan was excited to see Piccolo once again. Piccolo's surprised to see two Gohans coming to him for advice, but he can't deny that he isn't happy about it. Future Gohan has spent a lot of time with Piccolo in heaven, so he isn't quite as surprised as he could be otherwise, but it was still a happy reunion, hugging him tightly. Present Gohan was weirded out by the fact that they hugged. Piccolo never hugged him like that. Piccolo said that maybe if he trained more, he would hug him more. He listened to the Gohans explain just what happened with Trunks, Zamasu, and Black. It reminded Piccolo of the time he terrorized Earth when he split in half. And back then, there was one surefire way to deal with this. The first time he was defeated, with the Mafuba, the evil containment wave. It was what kept his evil side sealed away for thousands of years, and if you can get that technique right, then it's pretty much 100% guaranteed to work. And obviously, this is just a last case scenario though. It could kill the user. Future Gohan is happy to learn from Piccolo after such a long time, and Piccolo is happy to have a Gohan that's more eager to train. Though of course, Piccolo also knows how important studying is to his pupil. Before they had to go, Piccolo smiled at Future Gohan as he handed him the Mafuba jar. Future Gohan thanked him for everything, and that even though he wasn't his Piccolo, he would always be fighting for him. Piccolo smirked, and then was surprised as Future Gohan hugged him. Piccolo placed a hand on Future Gohan's head and told him that he was his Piccolo, but that it was time to go and defeat the corrupted God. Unknown to them, as Future Trunks protected civilians from the wrath of Zamasu, a pair of beings appeared before him right before he was struck by a heavenly lightning, and they teleported him away. It was Gowazu and Shin, the Kaioshin from the past, who had traveled with the time ring into the future. They needed to do something about Zamasu. They couldn't just stick around in their present timeline and do nothing, especially with how Gowazu blamed himself with how Zamasu turned out. Trunks thanked them as he was healed, telling them that Gohan and the others should be here soon, and when they arrive back, they need to return to Earth and finish things once and for all. Our heroes arrived in the future once more. Both Gohans, Goku, and Vegeta all jumped from the ship and quickly flew over to the action. They arrived at the scene to witness Zamasu firing blasts at innocent civilians. They wondered what Future Trunks was when they heard the sound of teleportation behind them. Future Trunks, stronger than ever, all healed, accompanied by Zamasu and Gowazu. This was a pleasant surprise. Trunks nodded with a smile at his father and Future Gohan, as Vegeta shouts towards his son to fire a super Gallic gun. The two of them join forces as Future Gohan quickly rushes in and picks up some civilians as the corrupted Kai fires blast at them. Zamasu was hit by the Gallic gun, giving them some time as Trunks looks up at his mentor. Let's put an end to this and save our home, Trunks. A few tears left Trunks' eyes as he listened to these words. Gohan placed the humans on the ground, telling them to run away as far as possible. As Goku and present Gohan continued to combo Zamasu, Goku, Vegeta, and both future and present Gohan stepped forward. Goku and Vegeta transformed into their Super Saiyan Blue states, future Gohan into Super Saiyan 3, and Gohan utilized his ultimate form. Zamasu begins to laugh.
Is this really the best you can do? Trunks really put his life on the line for this.
He continued to laugh, which only infuriated Vegeta. He and Goku began to attack once more successful, landing more blows. Present and future Gohan also assisted and would join in on the onslaught. Zamasu was able to block the majority of the attacks, but he was taking more and more damage. But as expected, he simply healed as he focused on future Gohan.
Why are you even here? You're a liability who's only holding everyone back. I'll do everyone a favor and wipe you off the face of this realm.
Zamasu created a keyblade on his right hand, then rushed at Gohan, slashing him multiple times, but just before the blade made contact with his body, Goku rushed in between, pushing Gohan out of harm, but in doing so, he was the one who ended up pierced by the blade. Zamasu smirked before making a pose and causing the swords to explode. Gohan watched his father fall to the ground, coughing up blood in this brutal attack.
See, you're just a liability, and you'll end up getting everyone else killed. Just like with the androids, they're always too weak to make a difference.
Gohan felt crushed. Present Gohan shouted over at him, telling him to ignore those words, but he just couldn't. Vegeta looked at Goku, then yelled at future Gohan to get him off of the battlefield, as well as himself. Zamasu was right, and he needed to retreat. Gohan did as he was told, feeling nothing but shame. How was it that he was never strong enough to make a difference? This timeline was Trunks' and his. Both of them were useless. Shin went over to Goku. He broke the bean in half and gave it to Goku. That was enough to heal him. Future Gohan refused to stand aside and rushed forward. Trunks tried to stop him, but there was no arguing with his master. He cursed at the destruction. Even with their help, they couldn't do anything. Zamasu did something we did against Buu a long time ago. Suddenly, both Shin and Gowazu's eyes widened as Goku sat up from his wounds. Fusion! Shin nodded. You're right, Trunks, he exclaimed as he handed his earrings over to Trunks. Trunks stood up before yelling out at his own father, throwing over an earring to him, not failing to mention how it's not permanent. They'll be separated again in no time. As Gowazu explained to them, Vegeta caught it with ease, but his face didn't look too happy at this. Fuse with me, father. I need to be the one to put an end to this monster. Please, lend me your power to do so. Vegeta looked towards his son, clearly proud at how far he had come, no longer running from his problems and instead facing them head on. It's better than fusing with that oaf Kakarot. A bright light illuminated the dark world surrounding them all. Vegeta was born. The fused fighter took out his sword and pointed it at Zamasu.
You're finished!
Rushing towards him and hitting him with a barrage of punches and kicks, then finishing with his signature move, Burning Impact, which caused Zamasu to explode in a similar fashion to Vegeta's dirty fireworks. Future Gohan had no idea what was happening now. What on earth was fusion? Zamasu fell on the ground, clearly hurt, but more so than that, he was frustrated and furious. He carried on to heal as he raised his hand, generating a giant key ball of energy. That's when Goku had a great idea. Hey old Kai, lend us your earrings too please. With no time to think, and though a little annoyed by the name calling, Gowazu complied and threw them over at Goku. Goku placed it on his ear, then yelled out, Gohan! Both Gohans looked back at their father and watched as the earring came their way. He did intend it to be his Gohan, but he didn't think it through when he did it. The giant energy ball was thrown their way, and Vegeta intercepted it by firing his own Super Gallic gun. A giant shockwave spread across the battlefield. All Goku could make out was a hand reaching out and grabbing the earring in all the confusion. And after that, another bright light that binded the two of them together. This time, Gokuhan was born. Or rather, future Gokuhan. Present Gohan really needed to work on his catching skills. Gokuhan jumped forward next to Vegeta and blasted out a Kamehameha as well, the two fusions completely overpowering Zamasu's attack and sent it straight back towards him, causing him to lose half of his body in the explosion. Zamasu started to shake with anger and began regenerating, only this time it was a disgusting purple slime-like substance that took the shape of his right side. Gokuhan raised an eyebrow. He must not be fully immortal now. Vegeta smirked.
Which means it's our chance to take him down.
Both father-son fusions powered up into Super Saiyan Blue. The fusions nodded at each other, with Gokuhan launching himself backwards. Zamasu tried to follow, but Vegeta wouldn't let him get close. The Son family fusion yelled over at present Gohan, asking him about a jar. Present Gohan looked confused at first, but then realized what he meant, looking inside the time machine and throwing over the jar they've brought from the present. The fusion shot him a thumbs up and placed the jar on the ground as he watched Vegeta fight, murmuring that strange incantation, and a bright, green, swirling wave washed over Zamasu, pulling him inside and towards the open jar. He was using the Mafuba. Vegeta fired off a final burning flash before rushing towards Zamasu and driving his sword further inside of him. The guy struggled but couldn't get out of it. Both him and the Saiyan fusion were getting dragged into the jar. The two of them kept struggling. Then suddenly, both sets of father-son fusion split. They had used too much power. The Mafuba began dematerializing and its strength weakening before Gohan and future Gohan rushed in together to use the Mafuba once more. Vegeta and Trunks were defused too, and Trunks pushed his father out of the wave, then carried on driving his blade further into the Kai, holding him down and preventing him from escaping.
You idiot! Don't you realize you'll be sealed in here with me?
Trunks smirked, then powered up once more. Red filled his eyes, and his hair began to flash between his signature golden color and a distinctive white. You're my responsibility, Zamasu, and I'll do anything to put you to rest, even if it means sacrificing myself. Goku realized what Vegeta was doing. He was staring straight at the wave. He yelled at him not to do it, that it was too dangerous, that they could find a way to save Trunks. But Vegeta wouldn't listen. He wasn't going to let his son be trapped in there with that monster. He reached into the Mafuba, hoping to grab the right one as he pulled back, his arm getting ripped to pieces in the process, pulling out future Trunks just in time as Zamasu was sealed forever. One final scream was heard before Gohan placed the lid and seal around the jar. Moments later, the pink cracks in the sky began to fade away, as did the clones that remained. The putrid green sky fading away. The earth and all its people were finally free from Zamasu's grasp. Vegeta fell to the ground as Trunks rushed over at him, thanking his father, but looking at Vegeta's arm, it was completely destroyed. It reminded him of that time future Gohan lost his arm. Ironic, another one of his loved ones losing a part of himself to save him. He promised that would never happen again, but he had failed. If only he had been strong enough to do it by himself. But future Gohan placed a hand on his shoulder, smiling at him and telling him he did an amazing job. As from his pocket, he pulled out the second half of the senzu bean and gave it to Vegeta. His arm wouldn't be able to be healed by it. It was far too damaged, but it would at least help him for now. As Gowazu and Shin arrived to help him, the gang finally had a second to breathe, with Gohan and Trunks making a plan to go to Namek in order to restore Earth to how it used to be. Meanwhile, Gowazu would take the Mafuba urn to his god of destruction to deal with it, and so the team returned to the present. There, Beerus scolded future Gohan for messing with time and told him that he had to return to his future. But Goku jumped in the way, saying that not only had Gohan proven to be a formidable fighter, but they needed people for the Tournament of Power. Everybody looked confused at Goku. What did he mean by that? Beerus cocked an eyebrow, realizing Goku's idea. Perhaps he could in fact look the other way this one time. After all, he had been doing it with future Trunks for so long. If Gohan is willing to train and be part of the tournament, then he's allowed to stay a little longer. Everybody turns to look at future Gohan. He's unsure. He needs to go back to his future and restore it how it used to be. Future Trunks places a hand on his master's shoulder, telling him that he understands. But this is a time to relax, right? A chance to fight together without the fear of the world ending. Goku coughed in the background nervously, but nobody paid attention to it. Future Gohan smiled at Trunks, then looked at everyone else. Goku, Vegeta, Beerus, Whis, even present Bulma, Piccolo, Kid Trunks, and that kinda looks like Goku, except smaller and happy to see him. Was that his brother? Future Gohan's eyes widened as the two of them just looked at each other. Present Gohan grabbed Goten and carried him up to future Gohan, telling him that he technically has two brothers now. Goten looked amazed, then turned back to look at Trunks, who didn't seem very happy to not be special anymore. Future Gohan and Goten hugged each other. They couldn't believe it. Future Gohan in particular was excited for this. He wanted to get to know his little brother. For the first time in many years, he had felt peace. Trunks was right. This was a little bit of an opportunity to just relax. He'd get to know his brother, Gohan's family, everybody, but above all, get time to train with Trunks one more time in preparation for the Tournament of Power. Next, what if Trunks stayed in the past? Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this new story. What did you guys think of Trunks Black's design? I ended up really liking it. A huge thank you to Sensei Yuki for editing this video, Brando Edits for the thumbnail, and Novaria_8 for helping me plan out the story. Before we sign off for the day, I wanted to give a shout out to the participants of the meme fan art event on my Discord server. The winners were Turblos by Volpes and the fight between Jiren and El Hermano by Sharo. The aura, those eyes. He's been the demon this entire time.
Esto es el fin, hermano.
Thank you to everyone who participated, and thank you to the mods for organizing it. Finally, a thank you to the patrons of the channel. Daddy, Cyber Samurai, Kaden, Huey, Beastieman420, Faisal Alshref, Akko, Grim Shadow 227, Giovanni Jimenez, Zanos, D-Man for Life, KV, Hurt Fanfiction, Blaze 9526, Craze PlayStation CK, Free Flow Highway, Jackie Effing Chan, Shane K, Angel MR, True Lightning Striker, Ghost 1571, Lee Urquidez, Kaiser Jirachi, Jonas Paulus, Trench Rules, D-Man Plays 22, Jim G, Always Zero, Jerome Foster, Saliel Paranjape, Keith Grimes, Christian Hellman, Lewis Perkins, Nuka Draco, Hannah Rowan, Midnight Combatant, and Mystic Angel, and Samuel Randall. I always appreciate you guys' support, as it all goes directly into funding editing and artwork for the videos. Anyways guys, I'm SmugStick, and until we meet again, see ya!